هذا القرآن يوحدنا لطريق الخير يوجهنا الله تعالى أنزله ورسول الله معلمنا هذا القرآن يوحدنا لطريق الخير يوجهنا الله تعالى.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين والعاقبة للمتقين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على عبدك ورسولك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Inshallah ta'ala, dear brothers and sisters, as Sheikh Abdul Rahman mentioned, tomorrow there will be a more thorough discussion about what Sharia actually means and how we should define it as, in the context of quote-unquote American Islam. But I just wanted to shed some light, inshallah ta'ala, on some of the very, very minor technical issues, more so from a jurisprudence perspective, and how we define Sharia and how we speak to others about what it means. Now, needless to say, people are not necessarily interested for the most part in actually knowing what Sharia means. And if they were, then they wouldn't go to people like Glenn Beck and Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity, who all have no education beyond the high school diploma, to offer their worldview and tell them how everything should be. Okay, so people for the most part are interested in what sells, especially from the aspect of the media. But naturally, we as Muslims have to be equipped to respond to these attacks on Sharia, because essentially an attack on Sharia is an attack on Islam. And one of the first issues that we have to address, and I don't think that this will be addressed tomorrow, which is why I chose to address it now, is the issue, for example, that people would say that we don't want America to look like Saudi Arabia or Iran. And naturally, whenever, I'm sure that all of the other imams who have been to conferences or sessions or workshops on Islamophobia have been asked the same question. Do Saudi Arabia and Iran practice Sharia law? And is this what we as Muslims seek to implement here in the United States? The first thing that we would answer to that, which is very important, is that Sharia is not synonymous with hudud, is not synonymous with criminal law. Okay, criminal law is an aspect of Sharia, but the entire Sharia is not engulfed by criminal law. And the purpose of Sharia is not to punish people. The purpose of Sharia is not to shed people's limbs everywhere. Okay, and this is something that we have to understand as Muslims first and foremost. Nevertheless, there is an aspect of hudud in our deen. Okay, there is an aspect of criminal law. But of course, that falls within the framework of maqasid al-Sharia, the objectives of Sharia, which will be covered tomorrow night, inshallah ta'ala. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to understand that as Muslims, from an academic perspective, we're going to be challenged many times on this question. Number one, we don't take the apologetic definition, which is that Sharia is however I want it to be. Okay, and we can apply general concepts of mercy as we understand, and do away with specific injunctions in the Quran and the Sunnah, because we understand this to be mercy and this to be lack of justice, so on and so forth. And at the same time, that no, okay, Iran and Saudi Arabia do not represent what we as Muslims want to implement here in the United States. Naturally, when things happen, okay, when laws are passed, or when values are implemented on a federal level that are in coordinates with what we see as righteousness, as morality, we're happy with that. Okay, and voters choose candidates based upon how they line up with their own values. Okay, it wasn't the Muslims that said that we believe the Constitution should be replaced by the Quran. It was Huckabee who said that the Constitution should be replaced by the Bible. Okay, so as Muslims, just like anyone else, when things are implemented, when things are legislated that are in line with our values, we're happy with that. Nevertheless, there is such thing as living as a minority in the United States. There is such thing as fiqh al-aqalliyat, the fiqh of minorities, the jurisprudence of minorities, and we don't neglect those aspects. Number two, and I'll only address this because, again, this question comes many times. What about Saudi Arabia? What about Iran? What about the Taliban? What about these types of things? And the answer that I would give, and I feel like Muslims should be offering, number one, is that in order to see Sharia for what it truly is, you have to see it represented in totality, not aspects of it. Surely there are aspects of it that are being implemented in several Muslim countries, but never do you see the Sharia as a whole being given. Okay? And although we acknowledge the good things that will come from many different governments around the world, the very idea of having a monarch to implement Sharia contradicts Sharia in and of itself. Okay, so having an unparalleled, unquestioned authority contradicts Sharia itself, because Sharia has embedded within it checks and balances. And so that's the first answer that we have to be able to give, is that Sharia is a full system. It's not exactly democracy. It certainly has within it elements of taking the opinion of others and those types of things in consideration when implementing it on a state level. But at the same time, we don't see today any government that is implementing Sharia in totality. And so it is not our responsibility to defend those governments' policies. Rather, we only answer to what the Sharia stands for itself.